Hello, everyone. I am Bob Lingle of the Good Neighbor Bookstore and the Pre-Order Podcast. We're here today with Katya Suvorova, author of An Ungrateful Immigrant Daughter, a memoir from the child of a mail-order bride. Thanks so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I spent the last few days binge reading your book, which I feel like anyone who picks it up will not be able to put it down. The story is just very, I hate to use your life as compelling and powerful, but it very much is. Your book kicks off when you discover the catalog when you were 17 years old that your mother was a mail order bride. Why did you decide to start the book off in that place?
That moment for me in my life was like started everything. I realized my mom was not it's not I mean, she lied a lot, but like not like forthcoming really about our past. I was like, I have to like figure things out myself now because we didn't have a relationship with our family in Russia. We I didn't have a relationship with my dad. Like there was all these things that I think also like as a child, like a teenager, you kind of start questioning. You ask why in like a different way. Like first it's like, why is the sky blue? You know, stuff like that. But then you get older and I mean, at least for me, I was like, why am I in America? Like why like it's kind of hard here. Why are we here? So I started that off because I started my book off with that specific scene because it really was like the point in my life where I was like, I have to figure out why my mom brought us here when our life has been so hard. She told me my entire life like America's the best. America's like so good. Like America is the place that everyone wants to live. And that was not my experience of the United States. Yeah, it was kind of the beginning of my quest to like figure out what it was about the the United States that was so great in my mom's opinion.
And before we go too far into it, I just wanted to offer the listeners, if they're not familiar with your story and your social media presence and what we're going to be getting into, just some content warnings. We're going to get into a lot of things, from child abuse, molestation. If that's something that you're not going to feel comfortable listening to, now would be a good time to to hit pause and listen to maybe another interview. I really appreciated, especially because of how heavy and how much happened to you while you were a kid. The style that you chose to write, where you're going down this linear path of from your 3 to about 17, but intercut into those chapters are more present day, late 20s, when you are reconnecting with your biological father. And you're just kind of get punch, punch, punch. And then the next chapter is like, okay, this is still heavy, but you see that the character of your real life turns out okay and everything is going to be all right. How did you decide to choose that writing style of going back and forth between those time frames?
The biggest inspiration for my book was my own like like my child self. I really wrote I wanted to write the book that if I was a child at a library, I could like pull off the shelf and be like, I see myself. I and part of that was what I needed as a kid was knowing that someone like me like survived what I had gone through. Um and one of the like I talk about this on my page a lot, but like one of the movies that like not a lot of people know about is called The Quiet, and it deals with this like girl who is like essentially like raped, molested by her father, and that when I saw that on screen, I was like, that's my story. Like it was such a shocking revelation for me to realize that was what happened to me. I had like words finally. And I grew up very much where I had a lot of adults tell me that what I was going through did not matter. They not only told me, they showed me that it didn't matter. And so finally when I had the depiction of what I had went through, I was like, my story does matter. And I wanted to do that as well. Part of that though is like having hope and kind of showing people that you can get out of it. Like, it can you don't your childhood, your trauma doesn't have to be the end. I put like the present tense part, or the present, my future self, in there to hopefully like show people that like it ends up okay. Like it, like my life ends up okay, and I had to make some really hard decisions to make sure that it ended up okay, but I'm here and I survived. Sometimes I don't really like, as someone with a lot of stress, like I don't like those books where I'm like, I don't know if this person's gonna like live. Like
Yeah.
that's not for me. I don't like that's kind of scariness. And so for me, like I need to know that it all works out. And life like rarely like all works out, but seeing that there's like good that I can create, like when you're a child, you can't necessarily create good. But as an adult, you have a lot more power. And yeah, so that's why I put that in there.
Again, I appreciate it. I was reading the book on the deck for a good chunk of the day yesterday, and my wife was out there reading her book, and I'm like, I am so glad that she wrote it this way, because if it was just your story straightforward up until present day, I'm like, I don't know that I would have been able to like emotionally and mentally handle your life.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
odd as that sounds.
No, it's
Um,
hard. It's hard for like me, and like even like I reconnected with my dad, and like it was hard for him too. Like it was just like kind of just like surviving is just a really hard thing when you're a kid, and you're in bad situations. And so yeah, that was that was very important to me to like put like it's okay. It ends up fine.
as you had mentioned, surviving and the sense of normal as a kid, that was something that I really connected with. I just My father was a Vietnam veteran, PTSD, had a severe drug addiction. My mom, because of that and other things, struggles with mental health issues. And so it very much also did not have a normal childhood. But when you're growing up and you're just in it, you have that sense of, well, like when I tell people my story about my childhood, they're like, "Oh, that must have been really rough." Like it was what it was. Like it wasn't until I was in my 20s and like late teens, early 20s, dating a girl in college who had that sort of normal American family, that I was just like, there was one day that I was just crying in her living room, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, this is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, yeah. Like
um,
the seeing normal is so it's like it really is like it feels like coming back from like war and just being like, what is this life? Like that is kind of, yeah, that's you put it so beautifully, like being in someone's living room and being like, this is like, oh, this is what it could be. Like this is what life could be. Yeah, that's a good way to put that.
how was that realization over time for you? Was there a pivotal moment? Was there a stronger awareness for you when you were younger that like this isn't normal?
It was really so I went to a lot of friends' houses, and I had this sense when I was a kid that like something's not right with my family when I went to people's houses. But my mom, I would go back and like I remember one time my mom would like drop me off before at my friend's house, like before she would go on dates, and she would wear these like really crazy sexy outfits, like knee-high boots, corsets, and like she was dropping me like a 9-year-old off at like my friend's house. And I remember like for the first like I remember being embarrassed, because when I would walk into my friend's house, her parents were wearing like, or her mom was wearing like, a V-neck sweater and like jeans. And I remember leaving her house and like being like, "Mom, why don't you dress like that? Like why aren't you dressing like my friend's mom?" And my mom was like, "When I'm that age, like that's when I'll dress like that." And my friend's mom wasn't that much older than my
Yeah.
mom. But she just kind of had these things that were like, this is like a different reality. Like she would be like, "This is not our reality because of this reason." And I'd be like, "Oh, it's because my friend's mom is like 5 years older than my mom. And that's why when my mom gets to that point, that's when she'll dress like it." So it's kind of like the normalization of the situation, like using weird details to kind of normalize the situation that I was in. But yeah, like going I went to a really rich elementary school in Houston, and I when I went to my friends' houses, like it was always that like why they have dinner together like every like my like mom's not like on a date and like I'm having to like find some cheese out of the fridge while I'm like watching my own self at 9. Like what? Like it was very shocking, but my mom would always just like be like it's because of this and that's why and like we just don't have that and that and like so yeah, it was just kind of the normalization which was very it followed me, and then as an adult I kind of realized like I was like I could change this. Like it doesn't have to be so like part of a really big part of my adulthood has been confronting things immediately when I see that there like something feels off. And it's actually been a really big problem with like my friends and like my husband sometimes because I'll be like um that person like said this like really weird thing and my husband would be like no I think it's just like I think that's just like how they talk and be like no like I think they like really are have a lot of internalized racism and like they haven't like dealt with it and my husband would be like will be like Katya like it's not your problem.
Yeah.
Like it's I promise you it's not your problem. I'll be like well we can't be around them like it's
Mhm.
very it's something I definitely struggle with.
My sister has been in town. She lives like 12 hours away. And we were sitting out on the deck the other day, just sharing stories from our childhood. And like, it was a lot of like different boyfriend stories of my mom's boyfriends and the experiences that we had. And like, we were telling it in a way like we just have dark humor to get through it all. And so like we're my daughter is 12 and she's listening, we're all laughing. She's like, "Oh," she's like I wish that I like my childhood was interesting and funny." And I'm like, "No." I'm like, just be glad your childhood is boring."
Childhood is a luxury. Like
Yeah, yeah,
a lot of people don't realize like it is such a luxury to just be bored.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that's really funny though, because kids, yeah, kids will say some really funny stuff when they can't understand, and yeah, that's yeah, boring is great.
My sister and I will continuously share memes with each other of I was at a party telling my funniest story and everyone just looked at me like, "Are you okay?" Like, "What do you mean? This is hilarious."
Yeah, that's like that's so relatable. That is like such a trauma like because you know you have to like kind of make trauma funny to digest it and um a lot of people like my husband is constantly telling me like Katya like that made that person uncomfortable and I'm like what like I can't talk about how my mom pretended to be a hooker like what like why like that's funny and my husband will just be like well, I mean, like, read the room, like, everyone's kind of, like, 80 and,
Yeah.
like, that's not their crowd. He's always, like, reminding me to be like, "Okay, when you walk into a room, like, remember who was there." I've had to have a lot of my husband had a relatively normal upbringing, and so he's taught me a lot of, like, this is what, like, these people like, this is how they're gonna react if you tell them something uncomfortable, and, at first I was angry, but then I was like, "Yeah, no, I have to fit into society somehow."
By telling your story, you're just like, this is your normal and this is reality. So sometimes people just have to deal with it. In terms of this didn't start off as your memoir, like it started off as your social media following as you began to tell this story and digesting um, everything that you experienced. How has it been like the dealing with the potential pushback from family members? How have you navigated that personal dynamic of being very public with your story?
So my mom doesn't know that my memoir is coming out. And I actually broke 8 years of no contact to try to tell her. And because I was trying to figure out like our citizenship situation, like I had to have some documents. And that was a very, when I finally contacted her after so many years of not talking, she was, she like, she was very she has very much gotten worse. And I kind of thought, I was hoping that things would get better. Um, but they haven't. And so I haven't really been able to like tell my mom about it. And honestly, nobody from my life, from that period of my life, except for except for except for two people, my husband and my best friend Jen, in high school, eh, they know about it. So it's been very weird. Um, my sister keeps telling me like, you know, that those people like they're not looking really at the kind of news that would be like covering my story. So that it is very, it's very frightening in that regard. But like my husband's family, they are white American, and his mom recently followed me on Instagram, and right after she followed me, I actually like I had like all these posts planned, and one of the posts was my husband's family doesn't want to read my memoir. And I was like thinking about it, I was like, should I still post this? And I was like, yeah, I'm still gonna post it,
Mm.
because like something that I really try to live my life by is like just as blatant honesty as I possibly can, because I didn't have that as a kid. Like I didn't have a lot of people sticking up for me. I didn't have a lot of people being honest with me, and I didn't see like the trauma that I was going through talked about ever. And so one of the promises I kind of made to myself was just do it even if it's really scary. Like post the thing, even if it, and like, I'm talking about citizenship. Like I'm talking on my page about like growing up undocumented. And I've had people advise me not to do that. And I'm like, I'm going to do it because it has to be talked about. That is the only way that bad people like are exposed. Um, and yeah, it's been very weird because I post the thing, and then later I'll be like, what if like this person saw that? Or like what if, and like my husband's family saw the post I made, and actually um one of them like read the book after I made that post. And I did not post it with the intention of trying to like force anyone's hand. I posted it because I wanted to talk about like how we have to sit with people's uncomfortable truths. Like that is just something I think I really think the United States has gotten to the point that it's at because there's been so much like this like white American politeness, and people are unable to sit with things that are just so uncomfortable. For instance, a lot of people are comparing, and me too, I'm comparing like what's going on with ICE to um, 1940s Europe, the beginning of World War II. But I was like talking to my friend recently who's black, and I was like, what about Jim Crow? Like that's like yesterday. That like I think the last Jim Crow law was like outlawed in 2000. And it was like interracial marriage in Alabama. And I was like, people keep comparing this stuff to like World War II, like, but it's actually just in America's backyard. Like
Yeah.
just these really crazy like how many people like what would, because people are posting things like what would you have done during World War II, but like what would you have done if your family were like owned enslaved people, like what, like I think about that all the time. And I think the reason why America is at that place is because we haven't really um been talking about our history. So yeah, sorry, that's a whole tangent that I have. That is like a big tangent based on like what you asked me. But essentially I post things that I know make me uncomfortable because I'm like, if it makes me uncomfortable, it makes other people uncomfortable, and people are witnessing me. And so I need to keep doing that. But it is scary.
Well, just to follow that tangent out, because we recently did an event with Chad Stormer, who wrote Resistance History of the United States, and just the deep dive of U.S. history and all of the different decisions and things that happened, and the glorification of the founding fathers. There's just so much whitewashing of U.S. history, and people keep comparing what's going on now with ICE to Nazi Germany, but Nazi Germany got their playbook from America and slavery. So we were the bad people
Yeah, no, just
in the beginning.
consistent. Yeah, consistently. Like
Yeah.
it's America, like, was founded, like, there was no foundation, like, Native Americans here were here first. Like, there's no, like, foundation of what? Like, you killed a bunch of people? Like, that's not a foundation, that's a massacre. It's a very I just people are like, "I'm so surprised this isn't the America I grew up in, blah, 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 blah." And, like, I've said that too. I've said that too because,
Mhm.
I didn't have ICE growing up as an undocumented kid. Like, there was, it was founded later, but, they weren't snatching people off the street. So I've said, like, "I can't believe it," you know? And then when I really sit with that though, I'm like, "But isn't that how America has always been?" It's always been this way for, I mean, not quite so open all the time, but it's always been founded on really like icky things, like terrible things, and reckoning, truly reckoning with that is, I think, how things will change. Um, it's like not like band-aid change, but like truly like reparations, all those things, like reckoning really with the history of the United States is how you can prevent things like ICE and yeah.
Yeah. I really be able appreciate being able to have conversations like this because, and especially everything that is going on now. I don't want to get too far down down the tangent, and we're going to keep talking about your book. But just as a white male in America, there's just things that you don't even think about. Like we hired our first two employees last year, and they white women, but just the things that like now when I'm posting things on social media, I'm like, I have to think about like if it's just me at the store, I never have to deal with anything. But if I'm
Right.
posting something and going on some sort of rant,
Yeah.
I'm not always going to be the one in the store if some angry person walks in and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like and just grasping like the reality that they're living in. Like I know both of them carry pepper spray and they keep the back door locked. Like just uh, over the last 6 months to a year of everything that's been going on in the country, I've really forced myself to like look at the privilege that I have in the world and recognize that like, oh, not everybody just be able can just flow through the area
Yeah.
with such ease and carefree.
Yeah. You know, my husband, he's a white American man, and he also too, he's like going through the same thing of kind of realizing, because we had to leave the country. And so he's realizing too, like, the United States is not as great as I thought. Like, he was always, he's very like, I believe in these American principles, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I think as like a non-American person, as someone who wasn't born in the United States, and as someone who like was very detached from American culture, my my husband will say something and he'll be like, "Yeah, but like freedom for everyone." And I'm like, "Yeah, but for how long? Like, is it truly like women that couldn't vote for a long time, and like black people could vote, and like freedom, like like what?" And we've been having some really difficult conversations, and he's it's been really great to see that he's not defensive, which is, I think, what scared me. Like, I am a confrontational person, but trying to sort through someone's defensiveness is just takes a lot of energy, and I think my husband is just used to me being really angry and loud, and so he's kind of like, okay, I have to like really sit with this because I will get yelled at. Kind of a problem, but
I recently left a full-time position that I had with our county chamber of commerce, and I'm going to do a deeper dive on our social media of exactly why that was. But there was different things that were going on. We lost our health insurance because of the big, as a result of the big beautiful bill a couple months ago. It put my wife in a position where she really needed to get back to teaching, so then we could have health insurance. And but we're in New York State, but we're in a very conservative part of New York State, and our congressman is very cozy with our president, and we host advocacy events with our county, state, and federal representatives. And we were doing an event with our congressman, and it was like back and forth if we were going to do the event, and then we ended up committing to it and just completely railroaded into how the event was going to function. And I just this is tied to you being very loud. I also became very loud in the office, and I just, because I'm a very public person with a store and I was the director of communications there, so I was a very public person there. I'm like, I feel like I'm very publicly a hypocrite that I'm like, let's give this guy a platform a couple months before the election to just spew things. And I know, like, with our advocacy events, we have the people there ask questions, but there's no follow up to, like, all right, I have a question about health insurance, but I know that his answer is going to be waste, fraud, and abuse. I'm like, my follow up question that I know you're not going to let me ask is, which
Yeah.
one am I? Am I the waste, the fraud, or the
Yeah.
abuse?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so that's me being loud and ranty.
Yeah. Well, it's we have to like have people do that and like make people uncomfortable. And also like it's just a very it's when I think about that, like I one of the books I read recently about like advocacy was like you have to like go to your community things, and like the biggest thing that you can do is like talk in your community, and like that's how you change things. And I was like thinking about it, like I'm chronically ill. I was recently diagnosed with POTS, and I was like, God, like the United States expects people like it's not an easy thing to stand up and like be angry. It takes a lot of like energy, and it's a necessary thing that has to be done, but it's kind of like living somewhere else now. Like if you're unhappy with something, you like text the people, the government that you're unhappy, like what you're unhappy about, and it doesn't have to be this like whole energetic thing. They just like change it. Like
Yeah.
it's like it's so, and I'm like that would be like a great like just to have like people in the government listen.
Yeah.
Like that'd be great.
Novel concept.
Yeah.
Tying it back to your book, after a 20-minute tangent, but I love that conversation. um, but staying on that same path, one thing that really struck me, because was a junior in high school when 9/11 happened, and just the impact that it had. And you had a similar experience, but just a bit younger. I think it was third grade. Um, that your mom had said, because everyone else is getting picked up and you couldn't get a hold of your mother, and then she picked you up at the regular time, like it was a regular day, and she said, it's an emergency for Americans, it's not an emergency if you're an immigrant, the rest of us have to work. That separation of this experience, how did that hit you in third grade, and then how, looking back on it as you were writing, were your thoughts around it?
By the time I was in the third grade, I realized this later, but I had like OCD, like really, really severe OCD from trauma. I remember just like panicking so bad, like looping in my mind like that my mom was like dead. And I dimmed it down for the book a little bit, not as intense as what I was feeling. But like the like truly I was like my mom's going to die. Like it was like all this thing because like you probably remember at the time everybody's like they're going to hit all the cities, they're going to hit all the like so it was
Hmm.
very like it was obvious that it was New York, but like everyone was like panicking that they would hit all these big cities. And my mom worked in an office downtown in Houston. And my mom like answered phones, but like I could not get a hold of her, and I was just so panicked. And every single person in my third grade class was picked up, and it was just me and my teacher, and for like hours. Um, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, my mom's dead. Like this is it. Like I was very very scared, and yeah, she picked me up, like it was normal, and she was like everyone who got picked up, and she was like she like even I didn't have the room in the book to like elaborate, but she was like everyone in your class is an American. And she was wrong, not everyone was in my class is an American, but she assumed because we just lived in that area. And she was like that's not like they don't have to work, they don't have to, I mean, do jobs like she was doing, which is a whole other thing, because her job was actually really good at that time. And she just like hounded down on me like this is not our emergency, this is not our emergency. Like we it was so weird because my mom tried so hard to belong to the United States, and she's like but she knew, because like really of the people around us, she's like we do not belong here, like let them have their emergency, this is their people, this is not us. And I I just will never forget that, because I was like why are we trying so hard to be like, if they're not accepting us, like why are we like putting up with this? Like why are we trying so hard to be American? And then later, like writing it, I was like writing the outline for the book, and I was writing about like just like really significant things that like made me really feel like I didn't belong. And that was one of those things, was like, this national tragedy is not for like undocumented immigrants like us. Like we have to work. And it was very, I didn't realize until I was writing it how significant that moment was to me. Because like after that I was like, oh, we're not like, we shouldn't be participating in like 4th of July, like all these things, like all, like everything was kind of put into perspective after that, because I was like, my mom was like, just because you are white, like we do not belong. That feeling has never left me. Like even until we left the United States, like it has never left me that like I am like not a part of the United States, even after getting the citizenship, after all these things. It's just, yeah, this country and its tragedies and stuff, it's not for us. And that's actually helped me a lot too. It's kind of helped me have a, I guess like a more, um, it is very helpful to be detached from the United States, because if I did think the country belonged to me, I don't think I'd be able to see it objectively. And I wouldn't be able to see like, it's not this great thing. Like a lot of other immigrants, like there's like a lot of immigrants who voted for Trump. There's a lot of like former undocumented immigrants who voted for Trump. And I think those people, like from what I know, like they had like bigger communities than me and my mom had. But yeah, it has really helped me see America in a very objective light, which is like, it's not this amazing place.
I feel like as Americans, like it just becomes like such a part of our culture that like I haven't traveled really at all outside of the country, but I just hear of like how weird, like the things that non-Americans view as weird when they come to America, just the flags everywhere. And like it's my daughter has been processing a lot of it. Is like she's just, all of her teachers say she's just too smart for her own good. So like for the entire school year and probably for the rest of her schooling, like she has just sat out the pledge. And
Power
she,
to her.
yeah, well, she discovered that it, I have 3 kids. My daughter's the oldest, and but like she has become like my moral compass for navigating the things that we're experiencing in America right now. That um, leaving my position with the Chamber of Commerce, it was just like, it's like, not that we're to the point, but I don't feel that we're that far off from Nazi Germany. But like, what would you have done at that time period? I'm like, did I want to be a part of an organization that was providing a platform to somebody who thought everything that's going on in the country is great? I'm like, no. And especially because my daughter is going to be sitting out, taking that stance and sitting out the pledge because she doesn't believe in what she is pledging allegiance to.
Yeah.
And she has I hate the phrase doing your own research because a lot of people use it that aren't doing accurate research, but she asked my wife and I, like, do I have to stand for the pledge? And before we could even formulate an answer, she went to Google, the Supreme Court said. And being where we are, I'm like, I helped her. I'm like, well, I'm like, if you do get more pushback, I'm like, if the Supreme Court isn't enough, the Supreme Court justice who wrote the ruling on that is actually from our city. So I'm like, just throw in some local history along with that. I'm like, Robert H. Jackson said that I don't have to stand for the pledge. So she is something. But having that sense of like, even knowing all of this, I still like fight with this idea of like, man, I still have this guilt of like not going into the military because it was just something so ingrained that you're supposed to do those things. Now that like you don't quite feel as an American, you became very detached from Russia because you were pulled away from there when you were 3. Do you struggle not having that sense of identity attached to a specific country?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I definitely do not feel Russian at all. Um, to a point where I like post like things that I'm afraid will get my family in trouble because they still are in Russia. And but I don't identify with like the government um like at all. I do identify with like the babushka culture in Russia, which is very like grumpy and like loves flowers and like loves to walk all the time. So I kind of like, it's so weird. Like when I grew up, like growing up without a culture, like you identify more with people. So like I identified a lot with my grandmother. I share a lot of values that she has. And I tried so hard to be American. I think I tried so hard to be American. And then at some point, when I was, I guess, a teenager, I was just like, it's kind of pointless, because like I just won't be accepted. But yeah, I identified actually very strongly with, I like Black American culture, and I actually like had I was like appropriative of Black American culture for a while because a lot of Black people were very welcoming and kind and open to me. Um, like the most, I think the kindest people that I experienced in the United States were Black Americans. They were just so like feeding me and calling me baby and like having these like the kind of like the same that my grandma had. Like me and my friends who are Black like discuss like grandma culture in Russia is very similar to like Black American culture. Um, and so like I think I can identify in terms of like culture, like I think I identify a lot with like people. Um, because culture to me has been very like violent, like identifying with a culture has been like very violent. And when I did try to identify with like Black American culture, I was like, oh, I'm appropriating, like I shouldn't be like
Mhm.
speaking in AAB, you know, like I was. And I was like doing that because I was like, okay, I like belong, but like no, like that's
Yeah.
not, that was that, like I shouldn't have been doing that. And so I was just kind of like, I can just identify with like people. And it was really difficult, not, it is still difficult, like saying that I'm not like, I don't feel American, I don't feel Russian, I don't feel Ukrainian, because like a large portion of my family is Ukrainian. But yeah, I just kind of like try to have like a very principled view on life that is constantly challenged. But yeah, it's more like principles that I realized is important, than like culture, if that makes sense.
Shifting gears a bit, just to get into your habit of reading and writing, you talk about reading quite a bit throughout. How was that? Like, how did reading help you get through your childhood and adulthood?
Yeah, so my when I was a kid, my grandma like she took me to the library a lot. And we took out, I had like this wagon and she took out like all these books. And when I was reading as a kid, like I made really good grades. And then my grandma left and I stopped going to the library. And I was like failing out of elementary school. Because I didn't have, like I realized like books and libraries meant safety to me, and my grandma would read to me every night, like her Russian books. And so like very early on, they were like very comforting to me because my grandma's very anti TV. Like she
Mhm.
like she's like, people are like no iPads, but like my grandma was like no TV. Like she's very like
Yeah.
anti TV. And later I had this, like I was not good at school at all. To the point like I almost failed a lot of things. And then I had this one teacher, like one time, when I was in the 7th grade, like tell me that I was a good writer. Like she gave us like some creative assignment and I chose to write. And she was like, you know, Katya, you're not good at this class, but you're like good at writing. And I was like, that changed my life. I was like, I'm good at something. Like what? Like it was like a small comment and a little bit like not nice, but like it really changed my life because I was like, oh, like this is what, like maybe this is what I can do. And because before then, like I really just thought I was gonna be like a sex worker because my mom was like, strippers make the most amount of money. And for and they only have to work 8 hours and they can make like $1,000 a night. So like in my head, I was like, okay, so to survive, I'm gonna be like a stripper when I grow up. Then when that teacher said that, I was like, oh, maybe I could like do something else. Cause I did not like the idea of being a stripper. I was like, I don't want to wear underwear every night. Like that seems uncomfortable and I get really cold. And like, it was just all these like kind of like practical things that I was like, I don't want to do this, but this is all I can do. And so I'm just gonna have to like suck it up and deal with it. And then that teacher said that and was like, you're like a good writer. And I was like, oh, maybe I can make a career out of this. And so that's just all kind of, that's all that I did was write. I wrote a lot and I read a lot because I read that to be a good writer, you have to be a good reader. So I was like, okay, I have to like read everything that I can. And that is like kind of how I decided to do writing. Even though like when I was 18 and applying to college, my mom was like, do not go into writing. It will be the worst mistake of your life. You will like please do anything else. And I went to college for marketing for a month. And then one of my classes was like, okay, how does company A and company B have the same product? Now, how does company A fuck over company B so that their product, and I was like, no, 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 no. Like I can't do this. I'm no. And so I dropped out of the program and just did creative writing. And yeah, that's why I'm here. But I do think sometimes I'm like, God, what if my math teacher told me I was good at math? Like maybe I would be like a math person instead of like do this. And I think about that sometimes now. But yeah, that's kind of how it kind of like fell in my lap because it was not the plan.
I have brought this quote up in a few different interviews, and I always preface it with, "I'm not a Tony Robbins fan," but the fact that I keep bringing it up, maybe I am. There's a documentary called "Tony Robbins is Not My Guru," and there's a section of it that like I was watching this like late at night years ago, and he was talking with this woman that was in the crowd, and she was talking about her relationship with her father, and the relationship that I have with my parents, just it really connected with. He said, if you're going to blame your father for all the things he did wrong, you also have to like blame him for all the things that he did right. And your story made me think of that, and especially with the relationship that you have with your mother because of everything that happened. How do you balance, and was writing this book it's kind of therapeutic to like navigate as you put your whole timeline together in one book to balance like you are where you are because of your mother, but you also had to experience a lot of horrible things because of that also. Where how did you deal with that balance as you were writing and just living it?
That's a really really good question. I love my mom so much. I love her so 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 much. And I I like I've been asked like variations of this question a lot, and so it's given me a lot of time to like really think. And like the thing that I come up with all the time is like I could not have done what my mother did. Like I love my mom deeply, but I am not I'm not as brave as she is. I'm not as tenacious as she is. I'm not as cunning as she is. I honestly probably, and this is so dark, but I know you'll understand based on where you come. I would have just killed myself. Like if I was like in
Mhm.
some of those situations, like my response would have just been like, I'm just gonna end it. Like this is getting really bad.
Yeah.
And my mom didn't. Like has kept. She keeps going. She keeps going. She keeps going. And I I think part of that is she's able to like I was being molested, but we had a roof over our heads, right? That's how my mom was thinking. She was thinking like, okay, well, she's being molested, but at least she's not hungry. So she's thinking about like what trauma was worse, like what like it, like the way that my mom thinks is like, okay, food like will keep you alive. Being molested, like, yeah, it's gonna fuck you up in the head, but like you're at least alive. So like my mom's goal is like alive. And that's kind of like the bare minimum. But when I think about like she came to this country with nothing. Like she came with like nothing, with a red suitcase. And left her entire family, and she had a big, big, big community in Russia and Ukraine, like big, big community. She could have gone back several times. Like she, um, she talked at one point in my childhood about taking my sister and disappearing in Russia, and like no one would find us. Like she was like, I know how to do it. Like she was like, I've got the connections. I know how to do it. She talked at times about like disappearing people. Like it was very, she's very like, like just very calculated. And I like, I don't admire that, but I do. So it's like a
Yeah.
very like it's a I walk like a very tight line between like God, like an admiration for my mom because that's just insane. And also like how could you put a child in these terrible situations? How could you not like protect me? How could you not protect my sister? Like how could you put us there? So like it's a very I definitely balance a lot between like so grateful like I have my American citizenship so I can travel. Like I see like my cousins in Russia, they're not able to go a lot of places. Like it's I have an American degree and for some reason in a lot of parts of the world an American degree is much more respected than like the degree of the people in their own country. Like it's like an American degree even though like I know what it took to get my American degree and like I mean for me it was like a lot of creative writing and like I'm not that impressed with me getting my degree, but like I'm very with like other people getting like, you know, language degrees and stuff like, you know, like just learning a whole nother language, all these things that are just not respected. And so like it did my childhood did like result in a lot of opportunities, a lot of opportunities. But at the same time, like every single day is like I fight with my own inner demons every day, and I've had so much therapy. I've like taken like medicine, all these things, and like I just don't think those demons are gonna go away. And
Mhm.
I'm like, so I have to live with these like intrusive thoughts and these memories and this trauma for the rest of my life. But I'm not like I can do it like wherever I want in the world. You know, like it's a very I think about it probably every day. Like I think about like sometimes I wake up and I'm like, God, like my mom is like, I can't believe she would do that. And then especially like now that I'm doing promo for my memoir. And then sometimes I'm like, I could never like what an amazing woman. Like I could never leave my family. And so yeah, I very much waffle between like did my mom do the right thing or not? Because like if she had left me in Russia, like I would have had a family, I would have had my dad, I would have had a lot of people take care of me. And yeah, I literally talk about this with my husband like every day. So it's a very good question.
Especially as I get older and my kids are getting older, of just the butterfly effect of different decisions. Mine that I have talked with my kids is more of a silly one, and like it was something that I brought up, and now I don't know if I just like traumatized them or created some sort of weird core memory for them. But I'm a fairly large, like I'm 6'2", I'm 230 pounds. I am very into professional wrestling and had this dream of becoming a professional wrestler when I was younger. Convinced my dad, and it was like also attached to my trauma because my dad was separated from us. I don't think at that point we were aware of his drug addiction. I don't know if my mom was, but I wasn't. And she was very hesitant of like having me go off with him. But it was the early days of the internet and like MapQuest. And I'm like, hey, I'm like, I have been emailing with Afa Inouye of the Wild Simone Pro Wrestling School, and there's a teen program. I really want to check this thing out. So convinced my dad, who was more of the dreamer and just the wild one, like, will you drive me down to this school? And it was that trip that I realized that there are two Whitehall, Pennsylvanias, and I directed my dad to the one on the wrong side of the
Damn.
state. So
Yeah.
we got down there and like, huh? And it was just like this memory that I've like written about, that like I have this memoir that I'm working on of my relationship with my father, and it kicks off with a road trip to Whitehall, Pennsylvania. And so like I've talked with my kids about that because like for like 20 years I wasn't watching wrestling, and then my kids and I got back into watching it. I'm like, I'm like, the kids of the wrestling trainer that I was going to train with, are now like Roman Reigns and the Usos and like all these people. I'm like, I could have been an honorary
Yeah,
Uso.
yeah, yeah.
And they're like, oh wow, like that's really cool. And then they're like, but then we wouldn't have existed. And I'm like,
Oh.
yeah, yeah,
Kids are
that's
so
true.
funny that way. They're like, but I'm the most important thing. Like,
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I guess it's good that I directed my dad to the wrong part of Pennsylvania.
that's such a crazy way to look at it because it's so true. Like, it's just like one thing that can like change the entire trajectory of your life. And like,
Hmm.
yeah, that's such a good, that's so funny. Your kid being like, what about me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hit on a lot. There's so many different things that we could talk about, but I would rather people just pick up your book, which is the purpose of this podcast. So to close out, your book comes out September 29th. It is an ungrateful immigrant daughter, a memoir from the child of a mail order bride. What is your hope for this book as it goes out into the world? And because of the nature of it, do you have any fears of this book going out into the world?
My hope is that people are more brave and want to protect children. Like one of the reasons I kind of wrote it was to highlight that neglect is kind of neglect isn't just like from parents not paying attention. It's also from like neighbors not paying attention. It's from like teachers not paying attention. Like it's um it's a lot of I want people when they see something like to say something, you know, like I want them to protect kids in that way because a lot of too like a lot of my abuse comes from people just not doing anything. I think that sometimes I think about this a lot and I think about like I wouldn't be I had this okay, so a tangent, but like kind of. I had this therapist that was like she dealt with women who were raped and she was like the women she was like I saw like some like women that had gone through like horrible rapes and but they had much less they were like had they didn't have like the trauma that like the women whose like family didn't believe them. Like it was a totally different like the people who supported and believed and like uh stood up for these women, they were the ones that were able to heal, and the ones who had communities that like did not stand behind them were the ones who were left with a lot of trauma. And I think about that a lot, and I just think about like part of the reason I wrote this book is like I want people to believe and support kids and like victims of trauma because one it will like help people with their own trauma, and two it will make the person more brave. That is something that I've seen a lot is like when people it's a bigger regret when someone is like I wish I would have done that than someone like standing up and being brave and like I saw that, you know, this parent was being abusive to their child and I like said something. And like it feels a lot better to be brave than when you do it like enough. It's like kind of a muscle. Like being brave is kind of a muscle, and when you do it enough, like it just is it's so much easier to do like the confrontation. And so yeah, that's kind of like I need to like hone that answer better,
Mhm.
but essentially I want people to be brave. I really want people to be brave and to do the hard things because when you do them like just a little bit, they get easier. It gets easier to do the hard thing. It gets so much easier um to do like the confrontation, you know, like to a lot of a lot of people like especially like okay, so my husband, he's not a confrontational person, but he has grown confrontational because I'm like you better like you better like when you see something you better say something. And he has grown more confrontational, and he's telling me now, he's like, Katya, you know, this used to be really hard for me, but now it's easy. And that's kind of what we need in the United States. We need people who are not afraid to confront their family members, confront their community members of like really problematic things. So that was yeah, that's kind of that's like why I wrote the book. And like the thing that I'm really scared of truly is I'm really scared of the people who, and this is just like a very honest answer, but like I'm really afraid of the people who are in the book because they're all still, except for one, they're all still alive. I am afraid of them revealing my identity. Um, so yeah, that is I get death threats like every day. So it is very scary to me. That someone would from the book like would want to hurt me. After they've already like a lot of people in there have hurt me. So yeah, that is like the scariest thing to me personally. Um and then I think another really big fear probably is someone reads my book and they're just like, "Ugh, this is just another trauma victim." Like, which
Mhm.
is a thing that happens a lot online. Like I talk about trauma a lot online and a lot of people are just like, "You're doing this for attention." And I'm like, "No." If I wanted attention from something, like I would not use trauma because that is the thing that people are that is like the most scary thing to be vulnerable about. And people are not gentle. People are like, "You're lying," or people are like, they just say like some really crazy things and it does affect me. And
Mhm.
I am afraid like people will read my book and be like, "This is like unbelievable. Like how did this happen?" And like blah 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 blah. Like I want those people to sit with their feelings because I
Yeah.
think they're probably
The last interview that we did was with Ben Reeves, who wrote Everything is Beautiful and Nothing Hurt. And he's very much not a social media person. Like he's become one to help promote the book. But he was very good at compartmentalizing of the things that are happening on social media are not a part of my life.
yeah.
So that I'm offering that as advice because there are times I've never had something that has like blown up completely, but I've had things where like my notifications on TikTok are rolling in more at a faster rate. I'm like, oh god, like it hit a part of the algorithm where people beyond my regular audience are starting to see this, and then I'm going to start to get comments of like, this guy's an asshole. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah, it is, something that has helped me a lot is I have fumbled on social media a lot. Like I've posted stuff that I regret posting, I like take it down. And then like that and it is like so scary to post things that I'm like, "Oh shit, like that was so inappropriate." Like I overshare a lot. And so I'm like, "Oh, that was so oversharing and so inappropriate." Or like I said like such a stupid thing. Like that's such a stupid privileged thing of me to say. But there are like people that are really gentle about it. And I'm like, this is just part of it. Like I've been through worse. And so like I'm like every time that like feeling of like the icy like what did I just do feeling,
yeah,
which I do get that a lot. Like I'm like I've been through worse.
yeah.
And it is important for me to learn. That's like the one thing that social media has like really sped up for me is like learning to fumble. Like I have learned to fumble. And I'm like it's not the end of the world and that's a great like reminder.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk. Really enjoyed being able to read through your story and then talking with you. Just very inspirational. I think it will provide people with a lot of hope. The book is available for pre-order through our website. Apparently, I'm going to need funds to get a new camera for my computer. So you don't have to buy it through us, but if you did, that's where the money is going.
If also if you're interested, I sent like 1,000 condoms to my publisher as like pre-order incentives, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll send them to whoever wants them." So if you want some ungrateful immigrant daughter like preventative condoms, like
Okay.
you can ask my publisher to send those to you.
Yeah, I will do that. Well, thank you again so much. This is a really great conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.